transcripts, you can, I believe, select to turn on the live captions. Hope everyone's having a great start of their week. I'm going to just give us another minute or two for the remainder of your peers to join us while I re-log into the Moodle. Okay, so it looks like it's taking a little bit for my Moodle to reopen. So instead of sharing my screen with that right now, I wanted to just give you a couple of updates before we get started. So give me a reaction or a note in the chat box. How are you feeling today? We're wrapping things up.
Tired.
Anybody else? I don't see.
Hello, good
Nervous.
morning.
Good morning. Judalyn and then Noren.
Yes, please
Yeah.
start, Judlin.
All right. Did your week feel a little less full of OBS work given our complex organization is coming to an end, or were you studying away for your final exams for all your courses? Okay. So I wanted to thank the each department for different reasons. Let me start with Mansour and the understanding department. They did an excellent job setting up the criteria over these last few weeks in communicating with the responsibility department in regards to what those scale scores were going to look like for the assignments or quizzes, as well as the overall assignment number 2, which was a big part of our points for the coursework. And then also in communicating with Rhodas in the doing department so that she could make sure that everyone was aware of what was happening with everything. And Mansour and I had been in communication these last couple of days because we transitioned back to the Moodle. So everyone's Moodle gradebook should be completely up to date as of midnight my time last night, Eastern Standard Time here in the US. So the only score that should need to be added for that should be our final exam score. And those point allotments that we started out with for a total of 300 for this semester went by so quickly. And it was designated in the handbook for the university. So we worked within those structures that were provided to us. And Mansoor, thank you so much for the work that you did in that. I want to also thank you, Rodas, because I had no doubt that you were going to surpass any potential expectations that I had in regards to your leadership ability, and you did. And I think that the way that you communicated with everyone was so welcoming and so clear and articulate that you really helped what could have been a kind of tense few weeks to go as smoothly as it did and to help bring everyone together. So thank you so much for all of your work in the challenges that you not only stepped up to and surpassed. And then for Noran and your department, like incredible how you just took on the responsibility and set up the structures, taking in everyone's voice in regards to how you are all going to go about the layouts and the experiences and the in-between work, the communications, those meeting minutes, everything tied so beautifully together. And that is a real round of applause for you in regards to your leadership skills and all of those different leadership styles that I recognize through you in regards to building your teams up, your cross communications, your servant leadership. It was really incredible. And I can tell you, I've done this experience before in different ways in other courses. And the way that it played out over these last few weeks, in my experience, surpassed anything that I've ever experienced with grad students and undergrad students. So I think a lot of that has to do with, Noran, how you were able to just bring everyone together and keep everyone focused on the goals ahead. And you did a beautiful job. So thank you very much for that. I can't believe that we are coming to a conclusion now, and I am going to really miss you guys. I'm going to miss my Mondays with you. So do make sure that you stay in touch because it's maybe the end of this course, but we're all working in this world together to make it a little bit of a better place. So I look forward to keeping in touch with all of you. What I have planned for us today is I wanted to just do some review with you so that you can actually recognize in yourselves and in each other the amazing growth that you've had over these weeks. And so what I did is I just mirrored a little bit of how I designed the final exam. Um, and like I had said last week, the exam will be composed of written portions and then also true and false, multiple choice, and vocabulary matching, vocabulary alignment. And so I thought what we would do just before we conclude our time together and release you to that exam link is do some discussion around a few questions that relate to our learning over this semester. And then we'll come back together in whole group and talk those out together. And then I have a engagement, a way for us to try out some true and false, multiple choice, vocabulary matchup kind of things, so that you can get your brains a little acclimated to what the final exam is designed like. My intention is not to give you the exact same questions that will be on the exam. So don't think that you have to write everything down. This is really just for us to engage. And like I said, for you to not only see your growth in relation to our objectives and outcomes for OBS, but also that of your peers. So I still am not getting the Moodle to open for me. So it's a good thing I wasn't relying on that to give you the link for your exam. And I also copied our questions or conversation starters to a document. So I will share that document with you now. And okay, you should be able to see 3 groups on the screen. And in those 3 groups, there are different discussions. So what we will do is break into just 3 random groups and take about 15 minutes to have conversations around the dark triad in Myers-Briggs, around characteristics of effective goal setting and feedback, and around stereotyping and attributions, um, the self-fulfilling prophecies, the halo, false consensus, recency, and primacy effect, how they influence that perceptual process. Now, your group will only discuss one of these starters, but when we come back to the whole group, we'll have a representative from your group share. The other members of your group can share, and then the people who were not in your group can interact with that content as well. So this is really going to require us to use our voices today, people. And I look forward to that. You did so well with engagement the last few weeks. I want to make sure we can do that again. Any questions before we go into our discussion groups? 3 groups, about 15 minutes in each group, and then we'll come back to whole group and have an open discussion. Give me a I'm good or a question. Thank you, Ahmed. All right, I'm going to open the room
Thank
up.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Leave me hanging out here by myself. Okay, so 15 minutes. I'll try to bop into your rooms today. And if you need me, just give me a holler and I'll join you for sure, okay? Enjoy the conversations.
Oh, Sarah, are you there?
I think we have everyone back to the room. I'm looking. I missed. Is Mansoor with us?
Yes,
think
I
he
guess
is.
he's facing a connection problem because he was moved out of the room.
Oh, okay.
Yes. We tried
Okay.
calling him, but no response. So I guess it is internet problem.
Okay, no worries. I know that I had been talking to him earlier, and I just wanted to make sure the internet is never completely reliable, is it? Um, okay, so thanks for coming back. I heard some great, like a couple of groups struggled with their startup, but they got going. So congratulations on that. I heard some great conversations, a few challenges. So I look forward to hearing from each group. What I did is I pulled the PowerPoint presentations that relate to each of these questions or each of these discussion prompts. So if we need to show anything visually, I can do that if you don't have that available to do for your group. But let's go backwards today and start with group 3, who was discussing how stereotyping, attribution, self-fulfilling prophecy, and the halo, false consensus, recency, and primacy effect influence the perceptual process. That's a mouthful, guys. You want to share a little bit about your conversation in group 3?
Okay, no problem. Ahmed, would you like to do if your mic is working now, or what do you prefer?
Actually, I was trying to speak, but you didn't hear me at all in the last 1 minute.
No.
Hello. Okay, I'll. Okay, I will start, and Noran, you can jump. Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay. Uh, So at the beginning, we struggled a little bit, like what is actually required, what we should do. Then we agreed that it's part of definition of each item, and uh, a little bit of um what's happening actually with it, or the benefit, and the what do you call it? Uh, What's the other thing than benefit? Hello?
Ahmed, we can hear you.
Okay, what is the other word opposite to benefit? Disadvantage. Thank you, Ahmed. Disadvantage. Okay, so we start with stereotyping, which basically all these items we are following it in our daily life. Okay, we stereotype, we do self fulfilling prophecies. We are doing all of this to some extent. And if we lose ourselves, or don't or we stop focusing, okay, and realize that we are doing something wrong in perceiving others in a wrong way, this will have negative effects on us on the short and long terms. So for stereotyping, it's basically when we take like apply a certain criteria to people based on their similarity from a certain way. Okay. Uh, I lost my focus. Noran, jump in, please.
Okay, so do you need to continue from self-fulfilling prophecy?
Start with stereotyping.
Okay,
I will jump in again.
okay.
Let me fix
So
this.
I will make a brief. Stereotyping is when you classify people into categories based on the general traits you see, without a certain logic of this classification. We have agreed that this have advantages and disadvantages. From the advantages that if you don't have time to do that, so you need a fast categorization for people in your organization so you can do stereotyping. But of course, it do some overgeneralization as a disadvantage. For the attributions theory, it is based on deciding a behavior someone is internal due to internal or external factors. So you do some analysis and ask some question to know if it is internal or external. For the self-fulfilling prophecy, and Ahmed mentioned that he experienced something like that in his work. It is about when a manager expects something from his employee, and that influence his employee behavior, and by then and make the employee do what the manager expect, and that have advantages and disadvantages, of course. So from the advantage, that may be a motivation if the manager expectation is logical, realistic, and compatible with employee capabilities, but it may be negative in case it is out of the employee capability, or he expect from him something in a bad way, so that can affect negatively on the employee. For the four last perceiving theories, the halo effect, it is generally like the first impression. It is when you have a general impression about someone from performing one trait in front of you.
Nuran,
Yes, Ahmed.
this is not the halo effect. It's the halo effect is when one characteristic take over all other characteristics of a certain person. So we are focusing, for example, that this person should come is coming on time. So we assume that or we are focusing on a certain behavior to an extent that we forget about the other behaviors.
Maybe we define it.
It is similar to the primacy effect.
Maybe we define the same, but we see it in different ways.
Yes.
But yes, it the primacy effect, part of it, the halo effect, because the primacy effect is more generic, as we discussed together, Ahmed, that maybe I formulate a view of the person from just somebody talking about him, not from me seeing him face to face. So primacy effect include under it the halo effect, I guess.
Okay.
Yes. Do you want to continue, Ahmed?
No, continue, please.
So actually, Ahmed and Noran, let me just give you guys a little bit of a life example outside of business. So I'm the youngest of 5 in my family, and sometimes because of that, I'm going to admit this to you, but not to my family. Sometimes because of that, my parents think I can't do anything wrong, and my siblings, are like, that's the halo effect to them. It's like my parents are taking one impression of me, and they're not looking at other characteristics that may prove their theory wrong, or their belief in me wrong. And I think you both were saying that exact same thing. Noran was bringing it in from that general impression perspective, and Ahmed was bringing it in from the characteristics, that prominent characteristic, which is pretty much one and the same, because the changing factor or the deciding factor from that prominent characteristic or from that general impression is that the person who is making that perception is choosing not to go any further or any deeper into any information that would change their decision. They lack the motivation to search for it. So great conversation. I'm not going to interrupt anymore. Go ahead. Continue.
you.
I just wanted to share that.
It is exactly as you, Professor, expressed it.
Yes.
We have lost to the false consensus effect, which when you base a conversation on a wrong assumption. For example, when I'm having a discussion with someone, I assume that this one is sharing same beliefs and same assumptions I'm thinking of, while maybe he's already in a different opinion from me. So I shouldn't do this generalization about what we both think because we exist, for example, in the same environment. The recency effect, actually, it is when you formulate perception about someone from the latest information. And actually, Ahmed and me have discussed this with a good example. Ahmed said it is like when a manager is doing an evaluation for someone, so he evaluate them in the latest for the latest performance in the last 3 months, because that's all he remember from information about this one. And I added actually this that I tried to connect it to another question or discussion, like the dark triad personality members. They do that. They depend on this perception to try to make the maximum effort in the latest months, so they would be evaluated in a good way. So now we reached the end of the 8 or 7, the 7 definition in our questions. And thank you.
Does any other group member have any considerations? Anything you would like to add to group 3's review of that discussion element, or any questions? Come on, there's got to be something. Okay, I'm going to take your silence. I see nothing in the chat box. I think something to remember, because you know that when I bring elements from the textbook to you, I want you to bring it to real life. And so we want to remember when we're looking at these different effects, that primacy component, right? That it's about that quick form of opinions of others based on the information received about them. And it's about the first impressions potentially being the lasting impressions. Although sometimes we forget as managers the whole year of contributions that an employee has had if things are not going so well towards the end. And it's very important for us to have a full picture, not just a small element of the individual's contributions. And that's what I think we're trying to look at with this discussion area, is really looking at that role of perceptions and how they affect our decisions in our roles and interactions and reviews. And Ahmed did have a great example of that from his personal work experience when we discussed this earlier in the semester. And it sounds like you all were able to bring that back to your conversation today as well. So well done, group 3. Let's go to group 1, where you guys were describing the dark triad, since Norian brought that into our conversation in group 3. You were looking at describing the dark triad of personality as well as the Myers-Briggs types. And your discussion was going to be around the implications for organizational behavior. How was that conversation? Share some of the highlights, please.
Larry, do you want to go ahead? Okay, I think Larry is not online. Okay, so I will go ahead and try to explain what we've been discussing.
Thank you.
Okay, so first we discussed what dark triad is. So a dark triad is a personality trait, which is a negative personality trait. It can be seen in individuals, like in their day-to-day lives, and also can be seen in organizations. So the dark triad has three traits, three types: Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy. So I think narcissism and psychopathy can be categorized as disorders too, like medically, but not Machiavellianism. So their difference is Machiavellianism is it's about when people manipulate and they use whatever power they have to gain power. So whatever they means that they have to gain power. And when we see narcissism, narcissists are they're very self-involved and they ignore people's needs. So I think the three of them have similarities somehow because three of them people with those personality traits are more in higher positions. They get better promotions and stuff like that because they tend to manipulate and they tend to fake the what's it called, their personality in when they're seen from the outside they look good but they're not. When we see psychopathy, they also manipulate others, and they're superficial. It says on the PowerPoint, and that's it. So, and when we see it in an organizational or workplace, they tend to have a aggression or bullying behavior. As I've said, they're more likely on a higher level in the organizational hierarchy. So they tend to use their bullying or their aggression power on those below them. They tend to commit white collar crime activities, organizational politics, and yeah, they have an effective team behavior. When they work in teams, they tend to usually get in power or take control. So that's it for the dark triad. And when we see for the MBTI, what we discussed is MBTI personality. It's a personality test. So it compares two ends of personality types. So it categorizes it, I think, into 5 categories, if I'm not mistaken. So they examine your energy, how we perceive information, how we make decisions, and how we are orienting to the external world. So, for example, there's extroversion and introversion. There's thinking and feeling. So the dark triad, I mean, the MBTI, it doesn't categorize you as a because you have you are introvert. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't say that. It just says you have this qualities and you would do good in this types of positions. Or for example, Larry was mentioning that he is good at entertaining in groups, so he's he's more of uh, he plays good in that role. So this could help, as we've been discussing. For example, in organizations, we can make the employees take this personality test and assign them as um, their personality type. So there are it's categorized you as 16 personality types, depending on the results that you get. So it has a neutral view of school results, as I've said. It doesn't say you're negative or positive. It just tells you in what areas would you be good at, and it's most widely used personality test. And that's it from my end. If I believe Ahmed cannot speak, he's in the office. But Winnie, if you can speak.
Yes, Rhodas, I wanted to bring in the rest of your group, Co or Winnie, Wellington, or yeah, I'm not sure if
Ahmed.
there's Wi-Fi issues for a couple of people, so maybe the chat box would work better. But the third part of that discussion, and you did an excellent review of the elements of dark triad of personality and Myers-Briggs types. In the third part of that discussion is what are their implications for us in organizational behavior? So I'd love to hear from Winnie or Co, or if Ahmed doesn't have microphone right now, Wellington, anyone else from the group want to bring those elements together now? And what does that mean for us in organizational behaviors? What does it mean for us in our workplace or in our schooling or whatever organizations we engage in?
I believe Wellington was not with us.
Oh, okay. He was not.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
Larry is not online at the moment. Maybe he's having a connection problem.
Yes.
Winnie was also on her way from her work, so she's not able to speak.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
It's okay.
You had a lot of discussions going on, though. I heard it and I saw it in the chat. So,
Yes.
okay. So let's open that up to the rest of the group then. How about Rhodas? If we say to the rest, to
yes,
everyone. Yeah.
I can mention for the dark triad, if we see it in our school, but maybe we have experienced some people with those characteristics. It doesn't necessarily mean they're psychopath or they have disorder or they're bad people. It just means maybe it can be due to how they grew up. So in handling them in organizations, we have to be a little careful, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So maybe we could go along with, and instead of being aggressive towards what they're doing or what they're implying or stuff like that, we can understand from what perspective they're coming and address what they want. For example, for psychopath, for the dark triad, I think they don't also listen to what other people say. So I believe what one solution can be to agree with what they say most of the time.
Yes, I think when we were discussing this, we got into a great conversation, and I provided you all with an article that related as well, to help with some of those nuances. And what stands out to me when I think about the workplace and behavior of those who may show elements of the dark triad is just proceeding with caution. It's still a colleague, you're still going to behave professionally, but you know to proceed with caution, and there might be a little bit more maneuvering than there would be with someone who doesn't have those characteristics. Well said, Rhodas. Thank you. And then we engaged a lot with our Myers-Briggs types, and you all got to experience that a lot when we were in our complex organizations. So does anyone from the group want to share anything from that experience or from your work or life experience?
Yeah, for me, I had a bit of a problem when taking personality test because I was not sure what the questions, I mean, from the choice, I was having a bit of trouble. So I took the exam like 4 times or
Yeah.
yeah, and the results were similar, but for them I got different personality types. So I just decided to do it without any, I don't know, I did it for the last time. And yeah, I believe what was it? ESTJ, uh, what I could remember is
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
So
no.
what I can remember is it said my in my position in an organization would be good if I become an analyst. So maybe that's why I chose it.
Yes, maybe. Well,
Because
and I
I
think
really
Ahmed,
wanted.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think Ahmed had done the same thing, and it is very unusual for you to have different results, especially in such a close amount of time. So initially, you're supposed to go with your initial results because that's the most true. Um, Otherwise, it sounds like you're more like me, Rhodas, where you read into the questions and the statements and you could answer it different ways. And then, of course, you'll get different results. But I do want to remind you all that over time, it is possible for an element to change, because I was a diehard INFP. And in doing my graduate studies and my doctoral work, I had to take the test again for a course that I was in, and I transitioned from INFP to INTP because I think I was so narrow focused on my dissertation work that thinking side of me came out, and it wasn't that huge of a crossover when I was able to look at the actual results from the test, but it was enough to change me from feeling to thinking, which was what my doctoral committee was trying to do with me, right? And then I should take it again I should take it again, the full assessment, because when I did it with the assessment that I had provided to all of you, it went back to the feeling. I'm like, and I would like to be able to look at the numbers of that to see how close I was, how much change is occurring. Because it's almost like a spectrum when you get the results. You might be very far into the thinking or just borderline into the thinking from feeling, if that makes sense to you all. So I'm excited because I don't know how many of you approach life in the same way that I do, but I'm going to plant the seed. When you're out interacting, I think you're going to find yourself recognizing those traits in yourself while you're in different scenarios, as well as kind of like tagging people with different traits, even though they, you don't know for sure, they haven't had the assessment. But thank you for sharing for your group and representing that information to us. I'm going to look real quick in the chat box.
Yes, actually, Ahmed has written
Nadia.
something in the chat box from group 1.
Yeah, he says, I think it's kind of healthy thing to change a long time. Yeah, it could be, depending on what your world is requiring of you, right? and how you're growing and what your goals are for yourself for both personal and professional growth? Absolutely, Ahmed. Anybody in the whole group want to say anything about the dark triad, the Myers-Briggs, how that has implications for organizational behavior?
Yes, I want to add something.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I have to confirm every time I speak. I'm not sure about my mic anymore.
No worries.
The Myers-Briggs, the personality tests, the psychometric test are just indicators. Indicators how to expect someone or you to behave or your style of work. I have taken another psychometric test is Thomas International, and it is more about how the style of the work will be. So we cannot depend on that for a promotion or a career path. Yeah, it's more like indicators. That's it.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And Winnie is typing right now in the chat box. And while she does, when I shared with some colleagues that we were doing a version of the Myers-Briggs, because the version that we did is not the full. To do the true Myers-Briggs, there's someone who's been schooled in administering that to you and coordinating the results. So we just had a flavoring of it. But they were recommending so many different types of assessments for how we interact in our organizations. And there's a newer one that focuses on what we do with failure. And because there's a lot of movement now in supporting people to be real in learning from their mistakes. And sometimes something even greater can come from a mistake if we're willing to take that risk. And so that assessment has to do with what do we do when we're in those situations where we fail? So there's a lot available to us. And you're right, it is indicators and it's just giving us a flavor. And we can't specifically say this person is this or that person is that. But I think that it does help us be more aware of how we're interacting with others. And that's really important. What Winnie has shared in the chat box is that for the dark triad, it can make the company or people make wrong decisions at times, since the traits come out as a bit aggressive or overly insisting. So when there are decision makers, if the team is not sober, they will end up affecting the entire organization. And at times it shrinks some group members, especially introverts. Yeah, it definitely does have an impact on introverts. And if you don't have other strong personalities, not even necessarily someone who's got like the dark triad of personalities, but someone who has a strong personality who can combat that, Winnie, you're right. That can be a game changer for where a project goes, which direction it goes, and the success or failure of it. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, anything else from the whole group on that before we go into group 2? Okay, thank you for your thorough review of that section. So group 2, you were describing the characteristics of effective goal setting and feedback. I'd love to hear where your group went, where your thoughts were on that.
Hi, hello.
Yes,
Clement?
we can hear you.
Yes,
Yes.
Clement, can you? Or
Okay, yeah, you can go on with the goal setting, but I will take the feedback.
okay. The the effective goal setting that we discuss here is about, we have the acronyms. We are staying on the acronym so that it's easy for us to remember the smarter way, if you remember that. And the is the specific, that and the specific, so that it's easy for us to remember. I use 5 wives and 1 husband. So what, when, where, and whom, and how to accomplish the task. Number 2 is the measurable. This is how much, how well, and what cost. Achievable. This is the challenging. Number 4, relevant. Of course, with this is where the employees control. Time frame. The time frame is the due date when assessed. This we cannot finish a job if we cannot put a time frame for each. And the exciting is the employer's commitment. Uh, we engage our employee engagement, not just for compliance. And when we go to the review, that's the feedback and recognition on the goal, progress, and accomplishment. This is the examine or the assessment. When we sum up with this, we come up with the, if how we motivate employee. When we see motivate employee, it's how the worker bring their job. For example, we will improve the work in our culture, in the work culture, not showing only that we care for them. We are not showing only for about the money matters, but we care about them. And for employee engagement, this is the dedication a worker feels toward their job. Example for this is give employee a voice, involve your employees. And the third is the employee drives. When we drive employees, we want to relieve, we want to give, we believe in our employee, provide continuous feedback. It's the hardwired brain activity that correct deficiencies. So I think that's all for the goal setting features. And Clement, it's your time for the feedback. Clement, are you there? Hello?
Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Just a minute. I'm just trying to plug my system to the chargers. Almost running off. Um, just a minute. Okay. Thank you very much. All right. In the organization, I'm presenting on the characteristics of the feedbacks. Is my voice audible enough? Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Just to start from where he stops, we're talking about the characteristics of effective feedbacks. Now, we all know in an organization sector, um, we have goal setting, and when the management or the supervisors, when the leaders set up a goal. A goal has to do with what the organizations want to achieve at a given point in time, um, and also at a specific uh, target. Now, these goals being set by the organizations as there are motives behind the goals and what the organizations intend to achieve after a given period of time. And these goals are being regulated and monitored by the leaders. Now, when the goals are being set up, there should be appropriate feedback. Just like she talked about the goals being specific, these goals need some feedbacks. For instance, a situation where the goal of employing staffs in an organization and the human resources have set up the required procedures on how to get the people hired. And there should be an appropriate feedback on what the position, the management should know the people that are hired, their qualifications, and what it takes to hire them. Now, the feedback here we are talking about now also should be in two perspectives. The responsible manager gives feedback back to the organization and also back to the employee. There should be a two-way traffic in giving feedback. Now, we are looking at the characteristics of feedback. There are a lot of characteristics. One of it is feedback that must be specific. Number two, we talk about the relevance or the appropriateness of that feedback. Three, feedback must be timely. The feedback must be timely. And four, we also talk about the credibility or the accuracy of the feedback. We'll also look at the sufficiency and other factors associated with the feedback. So these are the sectors we should look at. Now, let me start by talking about being specific, feedbacks being specific. Now, feedback being specific, we are talking about that the specific nature of the feedback, that feedback must be concrete and related. Feedbacks, we are talking about feedbacks must be concrete. So please, sorry for the background noise. We're saying that the feedback must be concrete and relate to specific goals set by the organization. This feedback must also be measurable because it has to do with the performance of the department or the managers. Now, it must be measured. Now, if there is no appropriate, adequate feedback as related, that means the feedback given by the measurement of what has been designed, the goal of the organization cannot be ascertained. If the goal of the set by the organization is on improving employees' motivation or improving sales or revenue in the organization, appropriate feedback, specific feedback should relate to as it has to do with that aspect, the employees' progress or the performance or the revenue generation of the organization. Now, feedback being specific means that it must be clear and easy. It must be understandable. Then the other one we're talking about being timely, we are saying that in an organization, organizations where, like I said initially, it must be timely in that the employees must receive feedback during an interview to know their position or to the event for which is being organized. Employees who interact with customer service over during a phone interaction or a phone call. Such phone calls must be timed and monitored, and immediate feedback must be given as to the position of the customer. Is it actually purchasing goods? What is the quantity and all that? These are necessary characteristics of feedbacks. Now we talk about appropriateness, or we talk it or call it relevance. Now, feedback should be presented in a positive manner. It must be presented tactfully. Given feedback to the recipients or to the leadership or to an employee shouldn't be threatening manners. The employee providing feedback should also remain calm, because there are angry customers sometimes. They will barge at you in a way you'll be angry, but we're expected to be calm. You are an employee assigned to a particular task is expected to be professional in his doings and or whatever he's been assigned to do. So giving the feedback, it must be professional. We also know that in spite of all this, feedback has some advantages, and I mean there are some things we need to avoid while giving feedbacks. For instance, talking about language, the kind of language one uses, the communication skills. Now it will be more appropriate for an employee assigned to a particular duty or task to use professional languages in discussion. Also, in other words, avoiding judgmental languages will decrease the possibility that employee will be defensive. But however, not being judgmental and giving feedback also increases the likelihood that this feedback is objective. It means that the person giving the feedback is objective in his approach, and he has put a lot of things into consideration in terms of conversation. We also talk about proactiveness. Now, giving feedback in an organization, the leadership of that organization expect the employee assigned to that particular task to be proactive. Delaying giving feedback is not good. In as much as one is okay, yeah, but I gave, there's a feedback, but the feedback, is it timely? Is it in line with what the characteristics of the feedback? So in other words, we are saying that feedback should not be delayed. An employee should be proactive to give the feedback for proper and adequate decision making. A feedback of an admission date where an admission officer, for instance, Windsor University, expects the student, an incoming student, to upload his database or his information on 1st of August, and the student upload the information on the 2nd of August. I think there's a delay in that kind of feedback from the employees or from the intending students, because by then the university must have shut down or closed their portal. For instance, during one of our deliberations, I'm supposed to post one of the picture page. I could vividly remember that, and it was a little bit delayed from my own end, and the system shut down. So I tried to communicate with Professor. Well, Professor's response to me was very encouraging. It wasn't too palatable anyway, but in fact, that is motivation for me to sit up to know that this course, there's always a time boundary. And I think that is one of the things that is very key here. I also believe that giving feedback in an organization creates room for collaboration and also encourage employee or management performance. You can also assess. Now, finally, I would also say that while we talk about goal setting and feedbacks, it is also quite interesting for us to note that feedback especially should be embedded into the culture of an organization so that in any new employee or any new manager should know that there are specific times or specific period one needs uh, to implement their project, and that they should know that the feedbacks are adequately embedded in the culture of that organization so that they will not give any excuses or complaints or delay or causes a setback to the performance or to the growth of the organization. So on the overall, I would want to say that feedback, as it works in line with the goal setting of that organization, appropriate feedback actually enhance performance and performances of all the departments. It also encourages it will enable some department to carry out good assessment of their performance in terms of the industry and individual behaviors. You can as well assess the performance of a given employee or manager if he's effective in his feedbacks. I think I believe my colleagues also may have one or two things to contribute. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Clement. Any other contributions from group 2 on describing the characteristics of effective goal setting and feedback? Okay. I want to thank you, those who represented each group, but for group 2, just to summarize, very brief summarization, you really offered a lot of examples between how we can set goals in our organizations that motivate and persuade, and then coupled with a strengths-based approach to feedback on achievement of those goals and on development of those goals and on how those goals play out realistically, were provided very nicely. When I look at it in relation to assessment, if I just think back to what I have tried to model for you in this course and what Mansour modeled or carried on in his development with his department members. I know it wasn't just him alone, but what that understanding department offered is that relationship between it's that assessment of what you're looking for, like what you're looking for in accomplishing, what you're looking of, and what you're looking as. So in the field of higher education, we look at it from an assessment standpoint. So when we look at assessment, we look at what are we assessing for, how are we assessing of, and what are we assessing as. And for, when we look at assessment for, that is when, like, each of those assignments, and I don't know, I am not in Mansour's head, but I know for myself and his department modeled it well in relationship to the responsibility department. When we look at assessment 4, we look at what are those results that we're receiving that can help us integrate additional learnings or complementary learnings to move forward in helping us not only memorize what we're looking to obtain, but to make it more applicable and relevant so that it will stay with us when we're out in our field, whatever it would be. Assessment of learning is just like looking at those checkpoints. Are you getting it? And that's like we have responsibilities to the university to cover a certain amount of content, and we want to know that we're going at a good pace for that. So assessment of tells us that we're all moving forward, and if we're not, the feedback that was described by group 2 offers that additional support or considerations for the learners so that they can more personalize the content. Assessment as learning is how are we hitting that mark? Like, how are we assuring that there's not misconceptions in the learning and that we're able to then, in relation to group 2, set those goals that are effective, and defining effective as that would still offer challenges to the people involved. So when you're in your work situation and you're thinking about applications of this course to your organization in regards to effective goal setting and feedback, that effective piece is really making sure that your colleagues or employees or team members, depending on your role, are not just sliding through, skimming as you would, through the work and setting goals that they maybe came in already being able to accomplish pretty simply, but always stretching and challenging them in ways that are personalized. And that's why the feedback is so important, because positive feedback is good, but we also need to learn from our mistakes or learn to be willing to make mistakes so that we can grow even more. And that's a really like fine line when you have stressors like our chapter talked about and conflicts in the workplace. We want to make sure that it's a healthy level of support and push without being pressured. So I hope that that makes sense. Thank you to all the groups and those who represented your group discussions. I appreciate you sharing. I want to move into the second part of the review now. And so I'm going to share one screen with you. And then let me open up the other screen in just a second. You should be able to see a spinning wheel. Is everyone able to see that spinning wheel on the screen?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. All right, so how this is going to work, and it's going to require, because I do not have my second laptop with me, it's going to require me moving in and out of a couple of different screens. But what I'm going to do is when I click on the wheel, each section of the wheel is a chapter portion that is going to make up our true and false, our multiple choice, and our vocabulary matchup section of the final exam. And that's a pretty large portion of the exam as well. I believe I had shared with you already, but I'll share with you again. The written portion is worth 40 of the 100 points. There are 4 written responses at 10 points each. And then for true and false, there are 14 points, 7 true and false items at 2 points each. Multiple choice has 16 points, 8 items at 2 points each. And then the vocabulary is 30, and that's 10 items at 1 point and then 10 items at 2 points, making up that 30. And I had shared that the reason why there are 10 at 1 point and 10 at 2 is because 10 of them are terms that are pretty simplistic. And then there's 10 terms that are more complex. So for that makeup, I thought what we would do is take the chapters and spin the wheel. I will randomly select someone, maybe 2 people from the roster, and I will give you a question or response that's true and false, multiple choice, or vocabulary term, and give you the opportunity to represent your understanding of that. And the point in doing this is just to like give you a little bit of an experience. I find that in doing this engagement, it eases us up when we approach the actual exam. The questions that I'm going to give you or the statements that I'm going to give you to respond to or the vocabulary terms that I'm going to give you are not necessarily on the exam, because everything from all these chapters is not on the exam. But it will relate and it will offer you hopefully the ability to approach it with less anxiety or stress when you do take the final exam, and be able to approach it with that understanding and learning that you have done over these last several weeks. So I'm hoping to not give you confidence, because I believe each and every one of you have it in you, but to just support that confidence and feeling comfortable when you do your final. So are we ready? We'll see who's going to go first. Yes. Okay, Noran, thank you. Okay, here we go. It's clicking. And we're going to go to chapter 9, Power and Influence. And I am going to select our first 2 people on my list, which are Abdussamid and Ahmed A. So let me get my information for chapter 9. This will take me 1 second because I have it all pulled up. Here it is. And we're going to do a true and false. And okay, so Abdussamid and Ahmed A. True and false. Power is the capacity to influence others on the basis of an identification with and respect for the power holder. True and false. Is it true or false that power is the capacity to influence others on the basis of an identification with and respect for the power holder?
True. I think it's true.
You think it's true?
Yeah.
It is false, my friend. That actually is the definition of referent power. Referent power is the capacity to influence others on the basis of an identification with and respect for the power holder. Power itself is actually the capacity of a person, team, or organization to influence others. So the difference in influence is present in power, but referent power is based on the identification with and respect for the power holder. Power itself is just the capacity. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. Thank you for being a risk taker for me and going for it, though. Okay, let's try another. And this next one will spin. Oh my goodness, we're going back to chapter 9. We have power and influence, and this is going to be for Chan and Clement. Okay. Chan and Clement are going to answer this one. And let's see. Let's stick with power. And let's say there are 3 contingencies of power. True or false? There are 3 contingencies of power.
Yeah, it is true, Professor. Central and visibility and discretions. Yes,
Yes, true.
it's the truth, Professor.
There are actually 4 contingencies of power. So there are 3. Here we go. The 4 contingencies determine whether the power bases translate into real power. Okay, so there's 4 contingencies, not 3. So you have to go back and find that 4th one for this one. I'm not going to give it to you. But like really pay attention, because it's easy for you when it's a true and false question. You think I've got a 50-50 opportunity, and you were right. There are 3, but there is a 4th one. Okay. Thank you for being a risk taker and giving it a try, guys. Let's do another. Okay, so this one is going to be for Judalyn and Mansour. So scholar choice is you tell me which chapter of the chapters you see on the screen, and I'll select a question type for you. Judalyn and Mansour, which would you like?
Okay. Mansour, what do you want? Chapter 3?
We're not doing chapter 3, chapter 13.
Yes, chapter 13, sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay. I'm going to chapter 13 right now. Okay. So chapter 13. This is going to be a multiple choice. Adaptive culture is when an organizational culture is when there's an organizational culture which has employees that are receptive to change, including the ongoing alignment of the organization to its blank and continuous improvement of internal processes. So your option is to its culture, A, culture, B, environment, C, observable symbols, or D, organization. Adaptive culture is when there's an organizational culture in which employees are receptive to change, including the ongoing alignment of the organization to its blank and continuous improvement of internal processes. What's the fill in the blank? What goes there? Culture, environment, observable symbols, or organization?
My answer is environment. How about you, Mansour?
Oh, I don't hear him, but I think he's going to be pleased with your answer, Judalyn, because you got it. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Okay. So next, we're going to have Noran and Olia. Let's see what we spin. Jeepers, chapter 9 is coming up a lot, ladies. Okay, power and influence. Let me pull up chapter 9. And let's see. Which of the following is not a source of power that is derived from 5 sources? So which is not a source, which is not one of the 5 sources that power is derived from? Okay, so power is derived from 5 sources. So you choose the one that is not. Legitimate, reward, coercive, expert, reverent, or obligation. You're choosing the one that does not.
Obligation.
Oh, you got it. It's very fast. She didn't even give you a chance, Aaliyah. Good job.
Thank you.
You got it. Okay, so next we're not gonna make Sarah Reyes do this. We'll have Sarah W and Winnie for the next role. Let's see if we can get a different chapter than chapter 9. Oh, Aaliyah guessed the right one. Selected the, I don't want to say guess, selected the right one too. It was in the chat box. I missed it. Okay, we have a new chapter. We're going to look into chapter 10, conflict and negotiation, with Sarah W and Winnie. And for this one, I'm going to give you a definition. And I want you to tell me if this is true or false, okay? True or false? Win-lose orientation is the belief that conflicting parties will find a mutually beneficial solution to their disagreement. I'll repeat it. True or false? Win-lose orientation is the belief that conflicting parties will find a mutually beneficial solution to their disagreement. What do you think, Sarah or Winnie? Or both?
I think it's true.
You think it's true? And what about Winnie? Okay. So Sarah, it is not true, and I'm going to explain the difference, okay? What I described to you was win-win orientation. Win-lose orientation is the belief that conflicting parties are drawing from a fixed pie, so the more one party receives, the less the other party will receive. So it's not equitable, it's not mutually beneficial. It's like someone will get more than the other. So the definition that I gave you was actually for win-win orientation, and that's where it's mutually beneficial. So the belief, win-win orientation is the belief that conflicting parties will find a mutually beneficial solution to their disagreement. So when you see the win-lose, you would want to differentiate that it's not going to be equitable. Someone's going to have a little more and someone will have a little less. But when it's win-win, it will be mutually beneficial. Okay? Okay. We have a few more minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and just do some random selections here. And instead of choosing who's going to respond, I'm going to give you guys a little competition, and whoever responds first will get the answer. Oh, back to chapter 10. Okay. So chapter 10, let's look at no, I'm going to go back to the one that I wanted to do. Conflict is defined as the process in which one party perceives that its interests are being opposed or negatively affected by another party. Name an example of a negative consequence of conflict. Lower performance, high stress, questions assumptions, A and B, or none of the above. We're naming a negative consequence of conflict. Ah, we got some answers coming in. And you got it, guys. It is A and B, both lower performance and higher stress. Well done. Oh my goodness. Oh, I almost got to choose. Chapter 9, we're back to. Let's go back here and let's say let's look at legitimate power in chapter 9. And this is going to be a true and false question. There's an agreement, when you have an agreement that people in certain roles can request behaviors from others, is it true or false that this is based off of a perceived right or obligation? When there's an agreement that people in certain roles can request behaviors from others, is it true or false that this is based off of a perceived right or obligation? Ooh, we got an answer from Sarah and from Ahmed. And from Ahmed A, you're correct. It is. It is also based off of or originates from job descriptions and informal rules of conduct. But well done. We'll do one more. Oh my goodness, we're heavy on the chapter 9 and 10. Okay, for chapter 10, let's see. let's look at the optimal conflict perspective. And the optimal, true or false? The optimal conflict perspective is the idea that all conflict is good, true or false? Optimal conflict perspective is the idea that all conflict is good. Anybody gonna join Ahmed with that one?
My answer is true.
We've got another one typing. So we've got one said false, one said true. Ahmed now says false. Okay. So optimal conflict perspective is actually the idea that some conflict is good, but conflict is bad beyond a particular level. So not all conflict is good when it's optimal conflict. That perspective is that some is good, but conflict is bad when it gets beyond a specific or a particular level. Good change there, Ahmed. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I hope that was a little helpful for you all. Thank you for participating. So before we wrap up and I provide you with your link in the criteria for the final exam, I wanted to do a 2 stars and a wish. And what that is like is it's just giving you the opportunity to share like 2 things that you're most proud of yourself about over these last weeks as a learner. And that's your 2 stars. And your wish would be either a goal that it's going to take you to in the future, you know, something that you still want to accomplish in relation to organizational behavior studies, or something that I could have done better in the course to help you feel more accomplished with what you've learned in organizational behavior studies. So it's 2 stars and a wish. 2 stars are really like giving yourself some acclimates to everything that you've learned or done over this last session. And the wish is what you still want to learn or something that I could do differently or do better in the future within the course. So I'm going to go backwards through my list of names. And that means I'm going to start with Winnie. If Winnie is with us. Okay, Winnie's going to type her answer in. So while Winnie is typing her answer in, I'll go to the next person on the list so that she can have a chance to do that. Sarah. Sarah's typing as well. I think this is a good one. But if you want to type, you're more than welcome to. That brings me to Rhodas. Rhodas, what are you most proud of for yourself over this semester, and what's your wish?
Okay, so the most I'm proud of is in this group work, the last one, the organizational structure one.
Yes.
I almost decided to give up my managerial role at first, at the start, because I was very nervous, as I've mentioned before. But I changed my mind, and I guess I did a good job, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud I'm proud that I continued to be a manager. And the other thing is, well, there are a lot of things I've learned throughout the course, because it was very engaging and practical. So the other thing is, well, the other thing is, I think I now can speak more. I mean, I'm confident because of the engagement that we had, because of the presentations that we had, live presentations. So I'm not afraid to present anything to anyone after this course. So, even in this course, I mean, I used to struggle a lot presenting, because in groups I used to, participate, but I don't do much of the presenting. I didn't before this course, but now I'm doing most of presenting, so I'm glad I'm doing that. And
Wonderful.
thanks to you. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. And is there anything that I can do differently or consider to do differently in the future that would help other learners?
No. I don't believe there is, because your course, how you approached it was very engaging. So even if there are a lot of concepts that we had to learn, you made it interesting. So it was very engaging, and we're catching the words very easily. So
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm going to move into Aaliyah. And I don't know if Aaliyah wants to type or if she wants to just share out. Okay, Aaliyah is going to type, and I'll go back to the chat box to the ones that are typing. That way we don't have to use everyone's time while it's being typed out. But Noran, that makes you next if you're good to share or if you want to type.
I can share.
Thank you.
Actually, I'm proud I survived the past 3 months. This is at the beginning. Survival is a proudness itself.
Yes, congratulations.
Yes, I'm still alive. Thank you.
Yes.
And I'm proud that actually performing conversations which are not in my native language, basically English, without any arrangements has improved, of course. Actually, while I was doing meeting in my work, and I needed to arrange my discussion and write main points, what I'm going to say pre each thing, and I have to prepare the question that they may ask, so I will prepare some responses for. But now it is more spontaneous from my side, that I'm replying to question more spontaneous, and having conversations more spontaneous. I think my voice become more expressive, because since we are distant learners, so maybe we don't see each other for a long time. So if I'm not going to express my feelings, or the gestures, the body language, all converted to voice. So my voice should be expressive to send my feelings for others. So I guess my voice became more expressive, and this is good on presentation skill level. For the wish, actually, the course was perfect. Professor, and you are an expert presenter and an expert facilitator, and you love what you are doing. So this is this have reached us during the course, of course. And there's only one wish regarding the it is not regarding the course, it is regarding the presentation of microhealth. The language they use and the organization of presentation is somehow complex, although the message can be reached or can be expressed in a simpler and better words. So this is my only concern. And thank you.
Oh, thank you. That is actually a really good concern to keep in consideration, because it goes along with your ability to share expression and ability to communicate in English, second language for you, so eloquently, because that's a part of what the university strives to do, right? That's a part of how we market
Yes.
the coursework. And so your feedback on that is really important, and I appreciate that. And I
Thank
do
you.
wonder, there's different things that we can brainstorm about that. So thank you for sharing that. Mansoor, are you able to speak with us, or would you like to type? I know he's at work right now, or like having in and out of internet. So I'm going to go ahead to Judalyn, and if he works his way back, we'll work him in. We can be flexible on that. Judalyn, would you like to share or type?
I can share.
Thank you.
Okay. What I learned here through your mentorship, Mom Ann, is because for the first semester, I want to leave my job now, so I just leave and go home. And now that I learn from you, I learned from this organizational behavior that uh, to be a good leader is started with yourself. Examine, uh, look at myself before others, and I should accept negative and positive feedback because it's where I grow or improve, and it will lessen the conflict or diffuse some conflict in my workplace. And if there's something I want to wish is, I hope that I can see you in our next semester subjects or course, because I like the way you teach, I like the way you guide us, so that we'll finish this course. Because without you, I don't know if, because there are times that I want to stop the subject or drop the subject because I'm so much stressed on my work, and I don't know, just I feel that, oh, it's just a bad timing to enroll the subject, but thanks, but you are there guiding us, my group members will always, oh, this is our work, this is our work, they're seeing me, and that's why I pursue. And now I hope I have a good grade for you and to pass this subject. And thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm glad that you were able to apply what we were learning while you were working through your struggles in your work. And when you shared about the positive and negative interactions, I love that you were able to use the content of our learning to maneuver that scenario, as well as, and I think the more you are in the content and remembering the content, it's also about being able to decipher the negativity that's coming at you in the workplace too. and still standing or meeting the person halfway, depending on what's behind it from that person, and not owning someone else's inability to recognize their responsibilities and cooperation and coordination of working together. So well said, Judalyn. Very well said. And I know like this course will come back around, but one of the elective options at some point will be a leadership and organizational behavior studies that will go a lot deeper into specific leadership development and skills. So you can kind of keep an eye out for that, and it will help you apply what we've learned in this session, as well as develop yourself as a leader. Because I had always thought of myself as never wanting to be a leader. I was like, I am never going to lead anything. And in truth, we all are leaders in different capacities of our work and life balance. So I'm really excited about that course when that takes place. I'm going to go ahead into Clement now. If you would like to share your 2 stars and a wish, or if you would like to write that in the chat box. And Clement, your microphone. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Annie. You actually, you indeed, how will I put it? You've done excellently well. So far, so good. I think I have a better perception uh, when we talk about leadership quality. I also learned more about motivation and uh, also talk about um, other problem solve uh, skills or approach. Now, so far, so good. The organization, this organizational behavior course has actually uh, enabled me to have a different perception on how to work in a team together with my colleagues. Like I shared in the problem assignment, where we were asked to propose solution, and instead of my colleagues to support for us to reason together, they were being antagonistic, each person being trying to discourage each other. And this course actually has given me a more higher understanding on how to work in a team. And also in the last 3 weeks assignment has also uh, to an extent has also encouraged me, and also uh, I, I get to understand that in the group, even when it look as if nothing can be done, that something can still be achieved, and someone can just be encouraged and serve as a motivation or a motivator to other members of the group. Indeed, this course has been very impactful in all diversity, and I'm actually impressed and I'm happy because I was of two opinion whether to um, defer the admission. Actually, my last section, the first semester when I joined, I was so busy that I was not all that committed. And coming to the first week, the first week I was not there. The second week I joined the program, your course. I think the second class I joined was the film film industry assignment, and I was called upon to present. Ah, God, I didn't know what to do, and I was like, oh, I was like, I saw my colleagues, everybody presenting, and there was opportunity at the end of the almost at the end, um, and you allowed me to say, okay, that I should go ahead, and I was able to. I remember and Joshua and Caleb in the Bible. And to my surprising, it was awarded to me. Now, but what interests me about your leadership quality is that did you know that your response to me not being able to uh, fulfill the other aspect of the assignment that has to do with posting the films or the image on the platform. By then I didn't really understand how to go about it. And when I tried to contact you, in fact, that now caused me to sit up. Your response was indeed actually it will be anathema or discouraging that somebody that doesn't have a good quality of leadership handling a leadership course. So I think as at that point I was able to assess you, Professor Annie, as a good leader who can use every other attribute or quality of leadership to ensure that the students are actually following. Um, After that day, I picked up the courage to now complete all other courses, including this particular up to this moment. So, of a truth, I really appreciate you, and I wish we have other calls together where I will learn more other aspects of organizational behavior. I think this course has actually also turned my behavior. Now I begin to see myself in organization. In fact, I'm seeing myself as an international, uh, how will I put it, where I need to go global and and participate with other people. And when we just talked about diversity, I also feel that I think with this course, I can compete with my colleagues all over the world and I won't be fidgeting. So thank you very much for the privilege and opportunity to learn more. I'm actually being impacted by the group.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate, because I know I've always had the belief that the student should be working harder than the instructor, because if I'm working harder than you all are, then I'm not giving you full ownership of your learning. And it's really important to me that you're not just here at this point in time learning about organizational behavior, but that you're able to integrate it naturally. And you very eloquently described how you do that, Clement. So I appreciate that. And it means kind of having those tough conversations sometimes and holding people accountable, and opening opportunities to learn about how we communicate and how we can be successful. So thank you so much for all the open feedback. I want to go to Chun next.
Yes, Professor.
Hello.
Yes.
It is
Can
very
you
late.
hear my voice?
Yes, I can.
Yes. And thank you, Professor. Let me say, in my opinion, before I joined this master course, I didn't know about what is the the informations, how to analyze for the organization, especially the behavior. After I joined your classes, I have known what is the intent, or maybe what is maybe, for example, what kind of categories we need to analyze, or maybe how we should understand about the management view, especially I found. Actually, I have known well in language teaching, because I'm a English language teacher. That's why we have already studied so many methodologies and also management, but only for the language concerning with how to communicate, but not organizations. So that's why I think myself I become perfect to communicate each other, or maybe to lead my organization. Now I'm a leader of my department in my university. That's why that kind of problem I have known, but I don't know the name. What is the name or maybe how to analyze it. But I usually solve the problem is some of the management skill I have found when I have studied uh, PhD at the time I have no. That's why. But now I'm really confident how to say about in the theory or maybe how to analyze my student, how to share my knowledge. Sometimes we discuss about the management because IT student mostly and now they have learned the management, especially the uh, professional practice or maybe like that. At the time, I have found that kind of management view. So I really appreciate and also proud of your class. I have chance to try. Another one thing is our group responsibility. At the time, I have found different types of our view. Maybe, for example, per session or for our topics. I have so many experience, but I have a new knowledge and also new challenging um, how to overcome the barriers because now we are going in like a scholar level. I have found now. That's why I really a little afraid and not to accept my ideas, but it is okay, and that is your encouragement and also your teaching or maybe your way of guiding in our position. Yes. Thank you, Professor, and also my friends. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for spending these late nights with us over the last several weeks. I know that the timetable was a little more difficult for you. So Ahmed Al-Sayed, we're going to go to you next. He is typing. So I'm going to go back to the chat box after we go through everyone, give everyone an opportunity. You can tell I'm already getting a little tired. Ahmed Awad. Did I say your last name correct?
Yes, Awad, correct.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm
But
horrible.
there is Abdul Samad before me.
Okay, well, I need Chan to work with me linguistically because even though I only speak English, I don't do it very well. So, but it's your turn. You go right ahead, and then Abdussamid will be next.
Okay. Uh, First, I'm happy that I took this MBA class after being afraid of going back to study and the exams. I have been afraid from this for a long time. But I'm happy that I took this MBA, and I'm happy that now I'm out of my comfort zone, and I will try to continue study, hopefully. In my life, I was blessed with many great mentors and people who pushed me. And I'm happy to say that your professor is one of those great mentors. You guided us, you replied to us, you pushed us. So thank you so much. Um,
You're
as a
welcome.
non-English speaker, it was a huge challenge for me just to sit down and read in an English book for 10, 15 minutes. Okay, but thanks to you and to this course, I'm now able to sit for 2 hours or sometimes 3 hours continuously reading. It's a challenge, but I enjoyed it, and hopefully now I can tackle my library of many English books I have. Uh, I learned a lot. I met new people. I will cherish them. I learned a lot of about their personalities, and I learned a lot also about my own personality. So thank you. That's all.
Well, thank you. And I'm very proud of you with your English and extending the reading. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because as I'm endorsed with second language learners. And so there's different approaches. And I know that it was different for you all, and you had to get used to receiving those materials ahead of time. But when you're translating those and working them through, just listening to having the option to listen sometimes is helpful, but then also like giving you that extra time to be able to do the reading. I know that it with your schedules, it wasn't always possible to do all of it. And I'm so impressed with the way that you were able to be honest and that you were able to continue to challenge yourself and you didn't give up. So thank you so much, Ahmed.
Thank you, Professor.
I'm very proud of that. And I appreciate your compliment. It means a lot to me. Abdusmid, would you like to wrap up with the oral sharing or are you typing? Okay.
Yes, I'm sharing. I can share.
Yeah. Yes.
First of all, I am thank you, Dr. Ania, and other my colleagues. I'm very proud to be one of the students of an MBA, especially or particularly this course, OOP course, will help me to understand my organization, especially my teams, and how to coordinate, how to resolve their conflicts. Also, I learn myself also, especially my behavior, my personality, and many things. Also, I learn in English, especially communication. Already, I am a big fan of listening. Listening is good, but I'm not sometimes good at reading and speaking. So this course helped me to increase my skills, especially speaking and reading. Uh, Also, I wish to see you the next semesters, Dr. Ania, because you are a good leader. You give us more motivation to increase our ability, to increase our capacity. I also thank our students, especially my manager, Nora. Exactly. Finally, I'm very proud to be one of your students, and I find I receive many things. Many things. Thank you so much. Thank you all of you.
Thank you. You're very much appreciated and your contributions to the course are very much appreciated. I do want to read through those who shared in the chat so that their voice is honored as well. I know that it's 12:28, so just hang in there with me because I'll read through those in the chat and then I will let you know for access for the final exam and then feedback coaching sessions that are available to you if you choose to use them. So just bear with me. As usual, we're going a little late, and I really appreciate your flexibility and time and your professionalism. So for Winnie, she shared that her 2-star is that she's been able to understand different personalities and how to work with different people, and also the feedback throughout the course has been helpful in growth and has been very impactful, especially during the project topic that involved getting team members' feedback. Because I know you were able to be a part of that, and it's different when you're on the other side, so well done. It has helped to improve how she handles projects, graphics, and a bit of presenting. And her wish is to keep improving her leadership and presentation skills. Sarah shared that the course has been a real experience for her, and she's very proud of her great interactions, presentations, and learning. She thanks me as the professor for guidance in the course and how I made it more fun. The coursework was very detailed, and she learned how to drive presentations and is more confident in leadership styles, dealing with conflict and effective feedback. Excellent, Sarah. Leah, she loved the course very much, and the most topics that related to herself was chapter 10. She now knows a lot about how to use emotional intelligence in relation to conflict, and she has already started applying it both at work and home and has noticed positive change. And like when you have a home and you have people around you, it's awesome to use them as like to practice what you're learning on. So well done on that, Aaliyah. She said she has acquired self-development and has improved on managing stress and achieving mental hygiene. She can creatively use her emotions. The course was engaging and it was a bit of a challenge on her side as learning while having a small baby demands a lot. And I applaud you for continuing with it in the level that you were able to contribute at, Aaliyah. She said she also avoided talking because she didn't want to disrupt the class with the baby in the background noise. And at some point she was close to deferring her courses, but that I was a good tutor and appreciated, and she admires me as a professor. And that goes both ways, Aaliyah. I understand what it's like being a mom and now being a grandmother. And for you to be able to contribute at the level that you did in this course while tending to a little one is a great example of your perseverance and dedication. So I appreciate you for that. Ahmed said he first is proud of dealing with people from different cultures, exchanging experience and splitting roles between everyone, and that he thinks that the presentations were impressive, engaging, and an expert presenter, and he has a lot of thanks. So well done, everyone. I applaud all of you, all of us, and appreciate everyone's contributions. So let's go directly into the final exam. I'm going to provide in the chat box the link for the final exam. And it should take you about 2.5 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours to complete it. I'm not going to be monitoring how much time you take. It will be verified by your entry stamp that includes both your email that you access the link and your name, because this is a final exam. You will have one opportunity to take that final exam. So you need to make sure that your Wi-Fi, or that you're in a place that is, you're not going to be distracted or disrupted, and that you have strong Wi-Fi. And you can also access the link on the Moodle, and I will show you that. First, let me put the link in the chat box. I'm going to give you the shorter link. And then I will show you the access for it on the Moodle. Let me share my screen because I was able to get that up and going. The tech department is amazing. Okay, so you should see on your screen my Moodle entry and today's session. So those review discussions that we used, as well as the access to the spinning wheel, if you ever want to use that for anything. You can personalize it to your own experiences. And then assignment number 2, Mansoor was awesome about communicating with me and talking through the scoring and the feedback for that for everyone. So everything in the Moodle gradebook is completely up to date. The only thing that is not entered is your final exam itself. So when you select the final exam, it says right here, it was open today at 10:30 a.m. and it will be closed at midnight Eastern Standard Time, the time of Windsor University. It will be closed on Tuesday, the 23rd. So you have approximately 24 hours to make sure you go in and give yourself enough time to complete that final exam. You can also access it It gives you the breakdown of the points that I've already shared with you multiple times. It gives you a text link to access, which is the exact same link that I just gave you in the chat box. And it also gives you the long link in case you have an issue with accessing it. It will not give you your automatic grade because I will need to go in and score your written portions individually. What we discussed last week, and what I want to make sure you know is on offer, is that I will email you and let you know what your total score was and that it's been entered in the Moodle. And I will also say, if you would like to meet with me individually for like a 15-minute to review any questions you have from your exam results, to discuss anything about the course and the application to your work, whatever you decide, if you want to meet with me, we can coordinate that at a different date and time that works for your schedule and for my schedule, because I really honor the work that you all are doing, working outside of the course, the work that you do in the course, and the other courses that you have. And I heard you when you said you have final exams on the 29th and it can be a little overwhelming. So our response to that in meeting your needs and still offering the final exam at a professional level that is going to demonstrate your learning from the course is providing you with this link and then following up with an email that your score is available and feedback on that. And then offering you, and in the email, I will offer you, like, would you like to meet in office for a 15-minute session to go over anything from the final exam or the course? And you have every right to say, no, that just doesn't work for me right now. And know that if it's not a time that we can schedule it more immediately, then I'm always available to you. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me through the university. I'm not going to not interact with you just because the course is over. So know that that offer is available to each and every one of you. Any questions or anything before I release you to your evenings, days, families, others? Anything?
Professor?
Professor, Professor,
Yes, Clement?
yes, I actually want to find out when you asked to do with my grade, but when I was looking at the grade, I discovered that either it was not scored or I failed the course because the assignment quiz and assignment on the July 18th. I don't know, is it that I didn't meet up the timing or
Clement, if you have a question about an assignment that's just like an individual question, we will need to communicate that to me in email or stay on the line after we finish class so that our colleagues can go about their day, okay?
okay, thank you.
Okay. Abdusmid, did you have a question or a comment?
Yes. Where to write the name of the student?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
Yes. Where to how to write my name in the final exam? My name.
When you open the link, it
Yes.
will verify your email and it will give you a space to write your name in.
Yes.
Like not you will, yeah. You'll see it. It'll be it's like this very second. Let me look at it real quick. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the second item. It verifies your email and then your name, you put your name in and then it goes into the test questions. Okay,
Thank you.
no problem. And if there's any questions, WhatsApp seems to be the quickest for me to respond because I have it on both my laptops and my phone. So, and I have to
Professor,
find my phone. Yes, Chen?
Professor, how can I know I passed the course or not when I check my grade?
So there's a total of 300 points, and the final exam is 100 points. So
Yes,
right
Professor.
now you can look through the totals and
So, Professor,
yes.
I need to look at the course today or introduction to assignment. Course today, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Professor, what I need to look at course today, right? Include empty grades or what I need to look at?
Oh, when you go into the grades, I don't have the same view as you, but let me make sure it's not going to bring up. Yeah, so you could go into grade report.
Yes,
and
Professor.
it'll bring up, see, like Abdussamid's name comes up, but I can't scroll over because I don't want you to see his personal information, like what his scores were. It should just come up with yours, with your information for you. You shouldn't have everyone's information. So that's what you will need to look at. And that's been there all semester, updated after each session.
Yes. Professor, I need to look at the course today, right?
You need to go into our course, yes, and then go into grades. Is how I do it. There may be a different way, but if you need assistance with that, I'm sure that the technical department will help you. They've been excellent.
No, I found Professor course today, and then I found the grade. Grade is E or F. What is I need to look at?
You need to look at your grades, and it will show you your scores across each time, and
Yes.
each assignment that has points allotted to it. And
Yes,
that's something you all should have been looking at across the entire semester.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions from anyone?
Yes, Professor.
Yes, Ahmed.
You said the exam is for 2.5 hours, but you're not counting the you're not focusing on that.
No, it should take you about 2.5 hours to complete the exam. I'm not saying it will take you exactly 2.5 hours. We all work at different time frames. It might take you less time. It might take you more time.
So you mean it's not time bound?
No, it is not time bound, besides the fact that you do have only 24 hours to access it once and complete it.
So if I complete it in 1 hour, okay. If I complete it in 6 hours, okay, no problem.
Yes, for me, that's yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Let me ask Professor.
Yes.
How many grade we pass?
I'm sorry, you want to know what points are for, like, how many points it takes to pass the course?
Yes, Professor. Now 300 is the today, right?
the
From the exam, how many grades we need to pass?
So that decision is made in the university handbook, and I will make sure that I send that with your final exam grade. If but you can go into the course handbook. That is all set up by the university. I don't grade on a curve. I don't make that decision. I follow the university policy on that.
How about is where can I find?
It should be in the university handbook, like in the university handbook where it tells us how many points are for the courses. And I will locate that and provide it to you as well with your final exam results.
Yes, Professor.
Okay, anyone else? Any questions? I'm very excited to read your written responses. I want to remind you that there's a clear expectation that you thoroughly think through your response and don't just give me a textbook explanation, but integrate examples and application. That's what's important, is not that you know what something is, but you know how it is important to organizational behavior studies. I wish you all the best, and I am here with any questions or concerns. And I look forward to speaking with each of you and reaching out to you through email and potentially meeting with you for feedback once the exam has been completed. So go ahead and sign off. Best to each of you, and have a great
Professor,
whatever your day brings. Yes, Chan.
in the exam is how many points? I think 100 points, right? Full
Yes.
marks.
Yes,
Oh,
the
yes.
final exam is
How many points we need to get to pass the exam?
So, Jan, you can ask me and as many, like you keep asking me the same question, and I'm not going to answer your question because to me, it's not about how many points you get to pass. It's about how you display your understanding of the learning. So, so you can look at averages and compare that and come up to that decision on your own. But I can say that those of you who have completed your assignments and who have been present in class, and you can go about your application of your learning over this next 24 hours for the final exam. I don't expect there to be any problems, but if you haven't done assignments and you go about the final exam half-heartedly, then the results will show that.
Yes,
Any other
Professor, thank
questions,
you.
everyone? Okay, you can totally reach out to me if you need anything. Clement, you had a question in regards to an assignment. So if you want to stay on the line while everyone else logs out, I'm happy to answer that question for you now, or you can email me, whichever you prefer. So otherwise, everyone have a good evening and go ahead and sign off. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Bye, Ma'am Ann.